All right, welcome to Random Pages 8, where we click random articles on Wikipedia. We hope that they're interesting, and we hope that we learn something. I'm Jay Foss. I'm joined with the Badge. And Article 1 that popped up, Badger, was the Yakuza. And this is kind of interesting. That's the big gang, the mafia, so to speak, in Japan. So we're going to look at listverse.com, who has odd facts about the Yakuza. Then we'll also reference kickassfacts.com, who has Yakuza facts. All right, so the first Yakuza fact is Sakaya is the name of a form of a large scale of bribery practiced by the Yakuza. First, they buy shares in a company, just enough to get them in a place at a shareholders meeting. Then they dig up as much dirt as they can on the company leadership. After that, it's a case of give us money or we'll come to the meeting and embarrass you. The Japanese fear shame above much else, so the tactic usually works. What is peculiar about this scam is that it is carried out with the utmost politeness. The threats are made in a roundabout way, as are the payoffs. The Yakuza will host an event, a golf tournament or a beauty pageant, for example, and sell awfully overpriced tickets to the victims of their blackmail. Some of Japan's largest companies have been targeted. One racketeer received 8 months in prison after targeting executives from Mitsubishi for illegitimate rent payments on a holiday home.
Yamaguchi Gumi is Japan's largest Yakuza syndicate. Recently, it has been the target of sanctions by the U.S. government and a crackdown on organized crime. American citizens are no longer allowed to make transactions with the leader. The move follows laws in Japan aimed at severing the ties between Yakuza and legitimate businesses. Previously, Japanese attempts to reduce the Yakuza have included introducing fines for businesses that willingly associate with the gangsters. These efforts seem to be working. Membership is at a 50-year low, and part-timers have begun to outnumber full members.
All right, Yakuza has been involved in relief efforts, and this actually happens even in like America with gangs because they try to get your trust or communities. You know, they said Chapo always helped communities to where, you know, when the police would come looking for Chapo, and you know this, Badger, they would say, oh, I don't know where he's at, because they're involved in communities.
Yeah.
So the Yakuza is no different.
They don't want to give up the people that help them.
Exactly. So the Yakuza unload aid from a small ship at the devastated port of the island of Oshima when the Japanese tsunami hit in 2011. The Yakuza was among the first to head to the affected areas with aid. This is not without precedent. In 1995, when an earthquake hit Kobe, Japan's fifth largest city, the Yakuza used scooters, boats, and a helicopter to deliver supplies around the clogged streets. Some people say the Yakuza helped in times of need because they are made up of outcasts and sympathize with people struggling to get by with no help from the authorities. It's pretty smart on their part.
Yakuza Magazine. Earlier this year, Yamaguchi Gumi distributed a newsletter to its almost 28,000 members. Named Yamaguchi Gumi Shinpo, the magazine included the haikus and articles on angling. An editorial from the gang's leader talks about difficult times for the organization. Yakuza members have been falling, and the magazine was seen as a way to boost morale.
Yakuza members who do something they shouldn't are forced to atone in a brutal way by chopping off part of their own finger. They start with the tip of their pinky, but further transgressions require further mutilation. This is known as yubitsumi. As a result, many gang members are missing most of their left little finger as well as some of their others. This has led to a high demand for synthetic digits. People who leave the Yakuza face stigma in other parts of society, and their missing fingers are hard to hide.
Tattoos. Jay, do you have any tattoos?
Just Yakuza ones.
Okay. Well, I have a couple of tattoos.
I got a bunch of henna tattoos, but they go away, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I hope so. Because
Yeah,
I have
do.
Gary's name on my dick.
I'm sure Gary appreciates that. One of the most iconic images of the Yakuza is their intricate full-body tattoo art. These use a traditional method of manually inserting ink under the skin known as irizumi. They are seen as a mark of a person's bravery due to the pain the method inflicts. In recent years, the number of non-Yakuza getting this style of tattoo has increased significantly. Popular designs include dragons, mountains, and women. Despite this widening trend of tattoos among non-Yakuza, they still carry a significant stigma in Japanese society. The mayor of Osaka instituted a ban on government workers with tattoos, telling them to either have their ink removed or leave and find another job in the private sector.
Yeah, having ink removed now is not exactly easy, right? I mean, even when they do the laser removal, it's several sessions.
I think it's gotten better over the years, but getting tattoos removed is never easy.
Because, I mean, you could stand to remove all yours. You'd be good to go.
Oh, yeah, just take the upper half of my body.
I'll just skin you, brother. If you sue the Yakuza, hey, they might sue back. Earlier this year, a Japanese restaurant owner began the process of suing Kenichi Shinoda, the extremely dangerous head of the Yamaguchi Ugumi we mentioned earlier. She claims that Shinoda had an employee's liability for gangsters that demanded protection money and threatened to burn down her bar if she didn't cough up. She is claiming damages of 17 million yen, around 2.8 million US. She is not the first person to sue the Yakuza. In 2008, a group of residents sued to evict the Dunjunkai gang from their headquarters in the city of Kurumi. The group had residents argued they deserved to be able to live in peace, and so they wanted the gangs gone from the city. But the Yakuza aren't always on the receiving end of the lawsuit. At the start of the year, the Kurukai, a Yakuza syndicate in the south of Japan, were labeled dangerous by law enforcement. They had been linked to a series of grenade attacks on rival gangs. Their lawyer argued the label infringed on the group unfairly. They were the only ones in the area's 5 gangs to receive it, and that it was a violation of Japanese constitution. So basically, they were saying, hey, we're not what you think we are. Don't blame us, right? I mean, that's basically what I read into that.
Exams. So in 2009, the Yamaguchi Gumi created a 12-page exam for its members. The move came after the government passed harsher laws against organized crime. The test was the group's attempt to keep its members from getting into trouble, but making sure they were glued up on the law.
Yeah, you better be an intelligent gangster in Japan.
Exactly. It covered topics from dumping industrial waste to vehicle theft. While the thought of tattooed gangsters sitting in an exam hall after a day of cramming may be a little more than an amusing image for Westerners, the introduction of the test tells the story about Japan's economy as a whole. The Yakuza have long been a barometer of the Japanese economy. If the gangsters are finding difficult times and doing what they can to minimize losses, then it means everyone else is in the same position.
All right, so new recruits to the Yakuza organization are required to take a subservient role to one of the more experienced members. This is called Kobun, literally the child role. Yakuza have a complex leadership structure, and there may be many layers one must progress through to reach the top. And you know what's funny about this badge is, this is part of pro wrestling too. Pro wrestling has this, that you have to be basically a servant to somebody if you want to make it. Isn't that crazy? That's just kind of the culture. The initiation ritual for a new recruit is a ceremony based around sake, known as Sakazizgato. I'll leave it at that. But the initiate sits opposite of his father role while his drink is prepared by the other members. The newcomer gets a smaller portion while his sponsor's cup is filled to the brim, a reflection of their status. Each drinks from their own cup before swapping and taking another drink, at which point the ceremony is complete. So yeah, you're like a little boy at first.
Yakuza and politics. In 2012, Japan's Justice Minister, Kishi Tanaka, was forced to resign his post when it came to light that he had links to the Yakuza. Yet having these links has not always been so damaging for Japanese politicians. The Liberal Democrat Party, which has ruled Japan for 54 of the last 58 years, has extensively documented links to the Yakuza. The first LDP prime minister was heavily involved with Yamaguchi-gumi. In 1971, he, along with other politicians, provided bail for a Yamaguchi-gumi leader convicted of murder. He also attended Yakuza funerals and weddings. Yakuza members operate as campaign workers and bodyguards during elections. In addition, Yakuza gangs are able to guarantee a certain number of votes for their favorite candidate.
All right, here's some other quick facts about the Yakuza. Badge, jump in if you have a comment or anything you know about it. But in 1976, a Japanese ultranationalist porn actor died after flying a plane into the house of a Yakuza Don, Japanese mafia, to punish him for accepting millions of dollars in bribes from Lockheed and betraying the samurai code. Badger, have you ever betrayed the samurai code?
I have.
In Japan, a few foreign cartoons, including Bob the Builder, was suggested to be edited, adding the fifth finger to the character's hands. The reason was that having only 4 fingers implies membership of the Japanese mafia. Hey, listen, we don't need Bob-san part of the mafia, am I right?
That's right.
Japanese largest Yakuza group, the Yamaguchi-gumi, holds an annual Halloween party for neighborhood children in Kobe. Not only were they in decorations were great and the gift bags full of tasty stuff, there was 2 big lines for cotton candy, and the gangsters were real super nice to the kids, Bad.
I love super nice gangsters.
The popularity of the Super Nintendo caught the attention of the Yakuza, prompting Nintendo to ship the consoles at night to prevent theft. That's actually a big-time story that's been confirmed over the years. They were worried because Yakuza wanted a little piece of the Super Nintendo. When Eisenhower planned to visit Japan in 1960, the government called on Yakuza bosses to lend tens of thousands of their men as security guards. A young American applied for and got a job as a reporter reporting in Japanese at the biggest Japanese daily, and went on to uncover a deal between a major Yakuza boss and the FBI. That's kind of crazy. Although ethnic Koreans make up only 0.5% of Japan's population, 30% of Yakuza members are ethnically Korean. So that's almost like all the Koreans, right? During a feud between 2 Yakuza families in the mid-'80s, local newspapers printed daily scorecards tallying the body counts on both sides. Could you imagine that with Crips and Bloods? That would be insane. Tajiri, a former WWE wrestler, refused the WWE's writer's proposal of being portrayed as associated with a Japanese gangster gimmick, as he feared that he might anger the real Japanese Yakuza. Over 90% of corporations on the Tokyo Stock Exchange held their annual shareholder meetings on the same day and at the same time, as a tactic against being blackmailed by the Yakuza. And finally, the Yakuza got their name from the worst hand dealt in poker. That's kind of nuts, right? An 8, a 9, and a 3. If you enjoyed mixed martial arts and pride fighting, they basically had to fold because of the Yakuza. So that's that. They're pretty fucking powerful in Japan. We move on to Article 2. All right, the next article that popped up was a Japanese romance drama film that actually won awards in Japan, and it was called Let Me Eat Your Pancreas. So I get to thinking, well, there's not a whole lot I can do with that except for let's dive into really bad movie titles, because Let Me Eat Your Pancreas seems a little odd. Seems kind of a bad movie title to me. So tasteofcinema.com brought us some of the 20 weirdest movie titles of all time, and we'll go through that. And the first one is Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bowl-O-Rama. That was from 1988, and it's a wish-granting imp is released from being trapped inside a bowling trophy. Then many decapitations ensue. Badger, I think with this, if you've seen any of these movies, unfortunately, let me know. I've actually seen a few of these. And depends on who reads it, but I'll let you know if I've seen it or not. I have not seen that one. So
I've never seen that one either.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension from 1984. The movie is about a surgeon / rock musician / adventurer. So he's got a lot of hobbies, called Buckaroo Banzai, and his men, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, who fight evil alien invaders from the eighth dimension.
Demon Wind. The film follows a group of friends who travel to a farm where a mysterious fog has set in. The friends quickly start being attacked by demons and the undead. Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death, 1989. It tells the story of Margot Hunt, a professor in feminist studies who has been hired by the U.S. government to track down a tribe of cannibal women called the Piranha Women, who sacrifice and eat men. Sounds tough. Her job is to convince the tribe to move to a reservation condo in Malibu, where there is a plan to domesticate the women with aerobics classes and Cosmopolitan magazine.
I kind of want to see this. It shouldn't take that much convincing, right?
No, it sounds hot.
The Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Cheerleader Murdering Mom in 1993, believe it or not. That's hard to fit on a VHS cassette sleeve, right? But hey, it's based on the true story of Wanda Holloway, the woman who is known for attempting to hire a contract killer to murder her daughter's cheerleading rival. Wanda tries to get her ex-husband's brother to help her, and he wants nothing to do with it. This sounds better than the Avengers Endgame, to be honest. This next movie, Badger, God damn it, I have seen it. The Men Who Stare at Goats. The Men Who Stare at Goats is a comedy and a war parody film about the U.S. military attempting to use psychic powers as a weapon. Did you not catch that one?
I don't think I've ever caught that one.
Okay.
Surf Nazis Must Die, 1987. Set in the post-apocalyptic future, it's about a woman who breaks out of a retirement home and goes on a killing spree to avenge the death of her son at the hands of neo-Nazi surf punks. Attack of the Killer Refrigerator, 1990. The movie follows a group of teenagers who get drunk and decide to abuse a hapless refrigerator. The fridge gets a case of hurt feelings and goes on a killing rampage, eating the ones who beat it up.
We move on to Killer Condom, and that was in 1996. It was set in New York at the Hotel Quickie. It follows a detective who is sent to investigate a spat of attacks where male guests have had their penises removed. Hate when that happens. After getting his testicle bitten off by a killer condom, the detective begins a quest to get revenge and stop the condom from making any further attacks. The title does give the audience an exact idea of what to expect, but gets weirdness points for the killer being a condom. Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. It's 1977. In the movie, the bed is possessed by a demon. While the demon is resting, the bed is safe to sleep on. But every 10 years, the demon wakes up and gives the bed the power to physically eat human beings. Badger, this next one. Have you seen it? Freddy Got Fingered, 2001.
I seen parts of it.
The weird title is in no way near as weird as the rest of the movie. Two of the strangers scenes see Tom Green masturbating a horse and suspending sausages from the ceiling while playing a keyboard and singing, quote, Daddy, would you like some sausage? End quote. The movie has since built up a cult following, but is credited to completely annihilating Tom Green's career. All right, we move on to Article 3 that popped up on the random pages, and it was Dr. Slump. It is a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Akira Toriyama. Bads, you know what he's famous for? The Dragon Ball series. The dude is rich. The manga was adapted into an anime television series by Toei Animation that ran on Fuji TV from 1981 to 86, consisting of 243 episodes. Dr. Slump is set in Penguin Village, a place where humans coexist with all sorts of anthropomorphic animals and other objects. Dr. Slump is filled with puns and toilet humor and parodies of both Japanese and American culture. So I said, if that's a manga and maybe it's an anime, what are the worst animes of all time? Ranker.com had a list. We're going to go over that now. Boku no Pico follows a 20-something who tries seducing a 15-year-old who looks about 9, and it basically illustrates this story through uncomfortable material designed to appeal to predators. Yuck.
Wounded Man. Very few shows pull off making the main character a rapist and then have him remain sympathetic. Not only is protagonist Baraki a totally generic bad boy with few redeeming qualities, he sexually assaults a reporter named Yoku and beats up her male crew members in the first episode. Apparently, this is supposed to warn them that Brazil is so horribly dangerous, a Japanese person should never set foot there. Even worse, Yoku and Baraki end up falling in love, even though he, assaulted her.
Dark Cat. 2 brothers who transform into cats must solve the mystery of a demon plague that inexplicably involves tentacles. If this sounds like a thinly veiled excuse to draw some adult material, it absolutely is. The whole transforming into a feline trope that sets Dark Cats apart from other shows isn't even capitalized on, as the characters spend half the series chasing demons, a task better accomplished in human form.
Skelter Heaven. The premise of a cute, big-breasted high schooler enlisting in the military actually sounds like a potential sleeper hit. Unfortunately, Skelter Heaven fails to turn this fan service into an anime worthy of any fandom whatsoever. The poorly animated travesty is half training exercises that make boobs jiggle and half totally illogical military responses to a giant alien squid floating over Tokyo.
The next one is Psychic Wars. A doctor treats a cancerous growth that turns out to be a messenger from Japan's ancient past who foretells a demonic invasion. For some reason, this means the doctor must go back in time to fight demons, something doctors are definitely trained to do. Psychic Wars is a nonsensical mess from start to finish.
Pupa. When siblings Yume and Yutsutsu get infected with the Pupa virus, Yume turns into a ravenous man-eating beast while Yutsutsu gains incredible regenerative powers. To protect his beloved sister from the world and the world from her insatiable hunger, Yutsutsu must not only keep her hidden, but must also feed her his own body.
That happens. Ice. For reasons never made clear, all the men on Earth explode and die, leaving only women behind. This type of dystopian premise presents all sorts of narratives about how men and women relate to one another, or the kind of society women from in the absence of the patriarchy.
General Chaos. This is an anime where little to nothing actually happens. Generation of Chaos never quite lives up to its own name. Chaos alone suggests some sort of action or engagement, qualities this OVA refuses to provide. The OVA is divided into different parts, each meant to introduce viewers to an anime universe that never takes off. In one, a boy trains Pokemon-like monsters who, uninspiringly, lack the appeal of Pokemon. In another, a half-demon gets persecuted for being a demon and also weaves a lot. Needless to say, bad characters, plot lines, and animation do not lead to a successful anime series.
Finally, an anime named Handshakers. It came out in 2017. A sure sign the anime industry still makes mistakes even after 50 plus years in the business. The premise involves handshakers, pairs of people who summon items called Nimrods from their psyches using a connection forged by shaking hands. After the pairs defeat each other, they go and fight God to get their wishes granted. Article 4 that popped up was boar taint. Badger, you know all about that.
I do.
Boar taint is the offensive odor or taste that can be evident during the cooking or eating of pork or pork products derived from non-castrated male pigs once they reach puberty. Boar taint is found in around 20% of the entire male finishing pigs. For centuries, pigs have been castrated to prevent boar taint. Commercial farms that do castrate will do so in the pig's first week of life. So I looked up what are some of the terrible smells you can come across, and I'm going to reference the top10s.com first and then One Kind Planet next. So top 10s listed eviscerated, decomposing dead body. That's a bad smell, Badge. Vomit can be a bad smell. Raw sewage. Skunk. Girls. And when I say girls, they're talking about that pussy. Rotten eggs. Body odor. Feces and cigarettes. Mostly cigars, though. So One Kind of Planet listed the animals that smell the worst. And they listed a striped polecat. And that can be smelled from a half-mile away. A stink bird, a millipede, an anteater, a Tasmanian devil, a musk ox, a stink bug, a wolverine, and more. And I think for the most part, the only thing I think everyone can relate to is what a skunk that got hit on the road. Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
There's a little smell to that. All right, so finally, to end the show, what was the fifth article that popped up? My God, the geriatrics are going to go wild on this one. You know what popped up, Badge? Led Zepplin.
Oh, snap.
Led Zepplin were an English rock band formed in London, hello, in 1968. Many have considered, not me, Led Zeppelin to be one of the most successful, innovative, and influential bands in the history of rock music. And the final article we're going to go over is from therichest.com. And it is some of the most interesting, awesome facts you didn't know about Led Zeppelin. All right, the first fact I have highlighted is the origin of the name. Jimmy Page birthed the group known as the New Yardbirds. That name stemmed from Page's previous band. Legal issues prevented the group from using that name on a long-term basis, and so the New Yardbirds needed something different. Legend has it that Keith Moon was responsible for coming up with Led Zeppelin, as explained in an Ultimate Guitar post, because he thought the band would go down similar to a Led Zeppelin. The next fact is about their debut album. Led Zeppelin completed their debut album in under 30 hours. The album, which had a cover that featured the Hindenburg in flames, began with "Good Times, Bad Times." It's a pretty solid introduction to the world for any entity.
The wheelchair recording. Robert Plant had been involved in a serious car accident the year before the band was in the studio, and thus he was relegated to a wheelchair or crutches as the band produced the album. Things did not go perfectly to the frontman, as Plant did take a hard spill during one recording session. Plant fortunately did not suffer a serious injury on that day, and he and the band were able to continue recording that tremendous piece of work. The Ocean Phone. It is a piece of rock trivia that goes along with stories of what is heard when you play an old Beatles record backwards. During the Led Zeppelin song The Ocean, you can hear what sounds like a ringing telephone in the background, particularly at about the 137 to 138 mark. Eddie Kramer, who was present during the recording process, implied during an interview that the sound being part of the song was purely coincidental, and that he did not recall the phone ringing. It is believed that Zepplin used such great technology that it even picked up the phone in the background, and that the sound was either missed or ignored before the album was finalized.
The next fact is they refused Top of the Pops. Led Zeppelin had a history of not performing live or recorded for television programs. This included Top of the Pops. Zeppelin had chances to perform on that show, and yet they declined each time. A reason that some fans misremember this is because a version of Whole Lotta Love, which has become one of the major hits associated with Zeppelin, was used as a theme song for Top of the Pops for years. And finally, the last thing I have highlighted with crazy facts about Led Zeppelin was fear of flying. One thing sometimes pointed out in pieces about Led Zeppelin trivia is that John Bonham had a fear of flying. One that was so serious that Bonham would drink enough alcohol to pass out before a flight would take off. Bonham was not alone, however, as Jimmy Page shared that fear. Page, during one interview, once explained that he was suffering from psychosomatic symptoms, vertigo, claustrophobia, that stemmed from his fear of flying. Zeppelin had their own customized private plane during the 1970s, probably to help members of the band deal with their troubles. That does it for Random Pages 8. For the Badger, I'm Jay Foss. Later.